Imagine trying to solve the stock market, not with, economic forecasts or gut feelings, but with pure abstract mathematics. Today, we're digging into the story of Jim Simons, a man who looked at the market and saw just another code to be cracked. And in doing so, he built what might be the greatest money-making machine in financial history.
So let's just start with a number that honestly looks like a typo, 66%. This was the mind-boggling average annual return of his main fund, the Medallion Fund, before fees for 30 years. I mean, to put that into perspective, that level of performance is, well, it's just completely unheard of.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. As author Gregory Zuckerman put it, this performance leaves every single legendary investor you can think of in the dust. We're talking about a whole different league here.
So what does that kind of consistency get you? Well, it translates into absolutely staggering profits. Over its lifetime, the Medallion Fund has generated more than $100 billion in trading gains alone.
And if you need one perfect snapshot of its power, look at this. During the 2008 financial crisis, right, when the S&P 500 was in a free fall, down almost 40%, Medallion didn't just survive, it soared. It gained a jaw-dropping 98.2%. It didn't just weather the storm, it was the storm.
All of this, of course, leads to the one central question. How? How did a man who spent his life in university math departments and top-secret government agencies with zero formal training in finance build this thing? What was the secret sauce inside his firm, Renaissance Technologies?
Okay, so let's get into it. And to do that, we first have to understand the man himself, because Jim Simons was pretty much the exact opposite of your typical Wall Street player.
I mean, just look at this timeline. It really shows you what an outsider he was. He gets a PhD in math by 23, then becomes a code breaker for the NSA during the Cold War. Then he gets fired for publicly opposing the Vietnam War and pivots to leading a major university math department. Does any of this scream future Wall Street legend to you? It wasn't until he was 40 years old that he even dipped his toes into the world of finance.
And that's because Simons came at the market with a completely different worldview. Where traditional traders saw narratives and fundamentals and gut feelings, he just saw a massive, chaotic system filled with data. He believed that hidden deep inside all that noise were faint, non-random patterns, a code that you could actually find and exploit if you just had enough data and the right tools. So how did that mindset actually translate into a trading strategy? Let's take a look inside the famous black box, the incredibly secretive and powerful method that drove Renaissance Technologies.
The entire system was built on a foundation of what's called quantitative trading or quant trading. And the goal was super simple. Remove human beings. Remove our emotions, our intuition, our biases. Get us out of the decision-making process entirely and rely only on statistical proof and automated algorithms.
And to build this system, he put together this incredible team of brilliant misfits. He famously avoided hiring people from Wall Street. In his mind, finance experience was a negative. It was a set of bad habits and biases you had to unlearn. Instead, he hired an army of pure scientists, mathematicians, physicists, computer scientists, people who knew nothing about the market, because he figured it was easier to teach a physicist finance than to teach a finance guy high-level math.
Their process was just ruthlessly systematic. Step 1, gather insane amounts of data, not just stock prices, but weather patterns, news articles, you name it. Step 2, unleash powerful algorithms to hunt for tiny, statistically significant signals in that data. Then, build predictive models based on those signals, automate millions of split-second trades, and finally, wrap the entire operation in a strict code of secrecy to protect their edge.
And here's the part that just blows my mind. You'd think to get those kinds of returns, they must have had a crystal ball, right? But their models were only correct about 50.75% of the time. That is barely better than a coin flip. The genius wasn't in being right all the time. The genius was in having a tiny statistical edge that they could deploy millions upon millions of times, compounding those tiny wins into an absolute fortune.
But after cracking the market's code and accumulating just unbelievable wealth, the story of Jim Simons takes another turn. It becomes about what he decided to do with it all.
By the time of his death in 2024, Jim Simons' personal net worth was estimated to be over $31 billion. That made him one of the wealthiest people on the entire planet. And he was committed to giving it away. Over his lifetime, he and his wife Marilyn donated over $4 billion to philanthropic causes.
Through the Simons Foundation, he became one of the great patrons of science in modern history. And he didn't just write checks, he built institutions. He founded the Flatiron Institute to focus on computational science, he made a historic $500 million donation to Stony Brook University, and he poured massive amounts of funding into autism research, mathematics, and the basic sciences.
And this quote, I think, really reveals how he saw the world. For Simons, the abstract universe of patterns and logic wasn't some escape from reality. He believed it was the ultimate reality, the underlying structure that governed everything from financial markets to the cosmos itself.
Ultimately, the legacy of Jim Simons leaves us with this really fascinating question. He proved that the market could be treated like a complex system, like a math problem that could be solved. And it just makes you wonder, what other complex systems in our world are just sitting there, waiting for the right mind and the right approach to finally crack their code?